So I am so excited and honored to introduce y'all to Dr. Julie Lowndes. She is the co-founder of Openscapes and an overall amazing human. So yeah, Julie, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much. It's so great to see you all. I'm just so thrilled that this cohort is together, and all the work that Anna and Devin and Tina and Corey and all of you have put into making this happen and being here. So so thank you, and I'm just so excited to have a bit of time to share share some stories about better science for future us, and then talk to you a little bit about it. So let's see. I will not be sharing my screen. I'll be walking through the slides like Anna did. And so I think you have the link in the doc. Great. And you're all with me. So I'm going to then go ahead and start on slide 2 of the Better Science for Future Us deck. So what I'm going to talk about in the next 20 minutes is try to give a sense of what does better science for future us look like. And like Anna said, she defined what better science for future us, kind of the way we think about that and the mindset around that. And I'll share this through stories, a little bit of background around the Ocean Health Index, which was in the publication that you may have seen. And then also talk about some of the other champions teams that have gone through Openscapes and also the broader Openscapes community. So I'll give little stories and sort of principles as we go, but I'm excited to hear your questions and discussion as well. So yeah, I think just a little bit more background about me too. So I'm a Marine, before we go to slide 3, but or maybe you're there already, but so I'm a Marine ecologist by background, and I think of, I learned to code kind of the hard way, the wrong way, but it's also the way that most of us, I'd say, learn how to code or learn how to work with data, which is kind of miserably alone, feeling like you're the only one that doesn't get it or that missed it. And so that was really my experience during graduate school. And I found some amazing mentors who helped me do my data analysis and complete my thesis. And then I took that to this Ocean Health Index team that had been working over 4 years. So I joined a team to work with them on this annual assessment. So on slide 3, this is the sort of story arc when I joined the Ocean Health Index team, is that I was coming in 2013. So they had already done all of this incredible work combining hundreds of open source data sets to assess the health of the oceans. And they had painstakingly taken notes. They had written a 130-page supplemental information associated with the publication, so that they had all this information, so that they thought they were working reproducibly. But what we found in 2013 was we couldn't track down all those Excel sheets and all those forwarded emails of people that had left, and it was really demoralizing and hard. But we were able to incrementally make progress where we saw the need the most, and we were able to do that every year, sort of incorporating new tooling and new practices together as we met those annual deadlines. And through that, a big part of our story is how incremental this process was. It was not, like Anna said, with the flywheel concept, it was not one big thing or a one-time fix or a one-time training. It was this kind of constant learning together and upskilling. And we did that a lot through habit building. So an example of that is that, we were used to emailing each other about questions around data or whatnot. And part of this habit building looked like taking an email that I had just written and pasting it into our new system for where we were going to have conversations like that, which for us was GitHub issues. So it was really like, you do it, like helping yourself develop those habits with the team. So on slide 4, a couple other things just to highlight about our story with Ocean Health Index is that, it required new skill sets around coding and documentation and collaborative tooling. Like even Google Docs was an enormous step forward for us in terms of the skills we had to work with Google Docs. But it was also about mindsets. It was about like, oh, my work isn't limited to my computer. It's connected to my colleagues. What should I be documenting or naming things in order to streamline that for my colleagues? It was possible because of trust we developed as a team, and because of leadership. And I think you all are so lucky as well that leadership is supporting this effort. Like this is part of your time, and to be able to learn together and really improve your practices together. And I think another point is that there's enduring benefits far beyond data analysis. You know, that was our intent, but we completely reimagined public engagement and science communication. We were able to share a URL to a website we built rather than emailing a PDF to just a limited group of people that then we had to email them again and say, oops, use this version of the PDF. You know, it was like this website was always up to date and had a much bigger audience. And that really changed the way we thought. So public engagement and science communication, it also broadened the collaborations we have and where we learn. And I think I heard this phrase that, you know, we were taught by the community, but practice as a team. And I think that's really true for us. For us, we were working in R, so many of the communities around R were really instrumental for us, as well as groups like Mozilla and the Carpentries that are leaders in this open science space. So that was really amazing too, to not feel like we were all alone, but we were part of this broader community. So there's three things that we really did that is how we now design the Champions program so that you can practice this as well. So the first on slide 5 is to create space. You're creating space right now during these cohort calls. And as Anna said, you'll be also having these seaside chats. That was so huge for our Ocean Health Index team. We had a regular standing meeting every week. You know, we could cancel it if we needed to. It was really low key, but it was a place that we were able to learn together, ask questions, teach, screen share. Nobody was an expert in everything, but we were able to really cultivate this place that we felt safe to speak up and learn together. So, you know, some examples of things we did, you know, someone would say, hey, I saw that there's a YouTube video about learning this R package. Could we watch that? It's a 20-minute video. Could we watch that together and then talk about how that could be incorporated into our work? Or somebody could say, hey, can we screen share and really tackle the way we're organizing our subfolders in this directory? I feel like if we just spent 20 minutes or an hour, we would all be able to kind of not feel so much friction with these file folders. So it was things like that, pretty low key. We had a list of what was upcoming so that we could go from there. So that was the first one, is create space. The second was creating place. So having places that we could collaborate together. So sort of getting out of the sort of forwarded email idea. So for us, having a GitHub organization and using GitHub issues for conversations was our place. And like I said, that took a lot of habit building of like, remembering to look there, having notifications in a way that made sense to us. So that we weren't missing things, but also weren't overwhelmed, but also starting to feel comfortable putting our work in a shared place. So, you know, I just made a presentation. I'm going to put it there so that when you make your next presentation, you can borrow 3 of these slides, like don't reinvent those. So having that place that we could expect to work together was really huge. And then the third thing on slide 7 is to find the common. So through having this shared place and space, we were able to identify workflows, tools, and skills that we all needed to do our best work. And I think, so in one sense of this was making sure everyone could participate as they needed to, and really not assume what people knew or didn't know, and also not assume that everyone was going to start at this like same place. Like we can sort of get comfortable jumping in at a certain place and then asking questions from there. Like it, you know, you don't like, I didn't have to take a absolute intro to R class before being able to like see someone's R code and ask how it worked. So that was really interesting to me. Another thing is we introduced new software sparingly. There's no end to like plugins and other software we can use, and we were really as a team like, do we need this? What is how would this improve our workflow, and like, do we have the space for it? So I thought that was a really good practice. We leveraged existing habits and resources within our team, but also beyond our team. I mentioned that YouTube video about an R package, for example. And another thing, this image in the bottom right from Hadley Wickham's R for Data Science book really transformed the way I thought. Like basically, it's the most influential figure in my life, I think. It really helped me distinguish data preparation or tidying as distinct from science or from the thing you want to do. And that's that gray understand box. I think of that as a science box. So no matter what your question, what your intent, what your study site, you will have to you'll have to import your data into a place to look at it. You'll then tidy it into a way that then you can start asking questions through transforming, visualizing, and modeling. And I think knowing that versus tangling those things together lets you use other tools and share and ask for help. We also kind of took principles around reusing code and brought that to reusing documentation. So we would say, oh, we have to have a long introduction to our project in a lot of different places. Let's keep it here. It's always the most up-to-date place. We can copy paste it, or we can start like automating it into report creation. So documentation was a big part of a big part of our work, and really to focus on what we needed immediately, which was onboarding new team members as folks joined, and also not losing information when folks left or offboarded. So there's some links on slide 7 to that effect. So that's some sort of practical things about the Ocean Health Index transition. And I wanted to now share other champions teams transitions. So after many years of the Ocean Health Index, I saw this need that I could help other teams transition. And so that's why I started Openscapes and started the Champions program. Like Anna said, we've had more than 10 cohorts go through. This is the 19th cohort that you all are all in, and which is just amazing. How many groups are learning and going through this process. So on slide 8, this is one of the slides from a NOAA Fisheries team that they presented at the end of the Champions cohort. So you'll maybe have something similar to this at the end that you'll develop from your pathways document, like Anna mentioned. The details aren't, I think it's a great example of, so IEA is this one part of NOAA Fisheries that happens across their different data science centers in the US. So this is one group in the Southeast, and they started off identifying kind of how they currently make their reports. So they looked at the data, they had CSVs everywhere, they looked at their metadata, they found that their version control system was by writing final or really final in big words at the end. So they kind of took stock together and talked about that. And then they started planning, like, how do we envision making this process better? So I identified that a relational database would be a really good idea. And they had heard from others in the cohort that others were doing that. And that's what got their idea there, because they were with this cohort from NOAA Fisheries. They were able to identify what they wanted to do better, and then also identify challenges. And those challenges are things that we have also been able to share with leadership at NOAA Fisheries and really help identify some of these challenges, because these were not only true for this one team that they identified after 2 months, but for many people. So this is a kind of a snapshot in time of one of these teams after 2 months in the Champions cohort. And slide 9 shows like 2 months after that, when another team in the same kind of IEA science, they started implementing from their plan. They started doing things. So what this is showing is that the data process used to be based on people emailing data, and they were able to set up like a Google form where folks entered data that automatically joined a Google spreadsheet. So they were able to move one bit of friction away. They were also able to figure out how to start using R for table and text submissions to then create final web reports. And this was a team of 6 different people who had different technology comforts and skills. When they started, they were able to kind of see this plan in 2 months, and then have folks that had the skills help architect it and teach other folks and learn from each other. So it was a really neat, really neat story that they were able to kind of see and plan and then execute this, and had other improvements to make, but were able to make this progress. And then on slide 10, this is another example of a NOAA fisheries team in this kind of science space several years after their cohort. So what they had done is, after they had, planned and figured out places to automate, they actually wrote a publication for other folks in their science space, saying that they had been bringing these open data science principles to this part of NOAA fisheries, and that they had also made an R package. They had taken the sort of workflows that they had iterated and that had been working for them in different ways as a team, and they made it into an R package that's now all of the NOAA fisheries groups around the country can use. And so they really invested in that documentation and teamwork themselves, and then saw that it was useful for others. And now everyone is able to use that kind of standard way, rather than everyone having to reinvent that. And so I think, this is examples of kind of incremental through time of what these other teams are doing. And I'm excited to see what you all are going to be thinking and doing through your cohort and beyond, and leveraging everything that you all learned from the first cohort last year as well. So those are some examples from other champions cohorts. Slide 11 is thinking about the broader Openscapes and open science communities. So this is a slide showing 4 stories from different parts of Openscapes that that folks presented at a January virtual meeting called ESIP. So there's links there that will take you to a summary of this event, but also the video and other slides associated with it. And what's just really cool is, like, from these champions cohorts, I'll kind of just briefly talk about these. We'll go in clockwise is the word I'm looking for. So Ileana Fenwick in the top left, she was a champion in 2021 and saw there was a huge gap in the amount of Black researchers that were part of Open Science and part of the Champions program specifically. And so she proposed that we fixed that, and we were able to get funding for Ileana, and she's launched a whole program called Pathways to Open Science to welcome Black researchers to marine science and open science. And it's just amazing to see kind of her leadership that's sparked from this program, while she's a PhD student using all these R and GitHub tools for her research. I mentioned NOAA Fisheries. They have been working not only within their own science centers, but also across science centers, in one part through that R package. And they also have been able to essentially help make NOAA Fisheries part of the Year of Open Science, and the leading group that says not only do they have a plan for their data modernization, but they also have a way to implement it through these Openscapes cohorts, which is really cool. Corey Clatterbuck gave a wonderful presentation about all the effort that you are all doing in this space, and how by working together with Anna and Corey and Devin and Tina throughout the years, you've all been able to build momentum and movement within the water boards, so that you're all able to have this these trainings here as well. And then lastly, the NASA teams that we work with are building teaching resources to help researchers work with earth science data in the cloud, and transition to what that means in the cloud. And so they're using these practices around collaboration to really change the way that NASA teaches, and really incorporate these open science principles, which is just really amazing. Like, there's so much more to say about all of these groups, but I think it's just really exciting to see like the within and across and beyond type of work that they're all able to do. So I was just going to end with a few points on slide 12. Just, we think about this as movement building and that turning of the flywheel, and just thinking about what's possible because of all this. It's not only to, make your copy pasting workflows a little less cumbersome, but it's so that you have more time on science and solutions. But it's not just about that saved time. It's about having better products that are robust, that are easier to check when someone has questions, having things that are less lost day to day as incoming emails can kind of get overwhelming, but also thinking about during succession and as folks retire or move on and other folks join, like how do you still focus on the science and solutions throughout all of those scenarios? It's also about improved morale and helping people get unstuck and feel less lonely, like Anna mentioned. During the pandemic, there's a lot of us onboarded during the pandemic, and it can be really lonely and confusing. And so thinking about how to make that less lonely, and so folks can stay in jobs and do their best. And it's also about developing real relationships with folks. Molly Williams is here, who is part of our Ocean Health Index fellows in the early days, and it's just amazing to have these relationships like grow into new places. So I think that's really exciting, and to see kind of the institutional culture change that can happen before that. I think if when I really think about what I'm most proud of with the Openscapes community, it's how much braver people are. Like I'm braver, and I see other folks being braver about asking questions in meetings, or bringing what they learned from silent journaling to a different place and trying that out and building that. And I think so. I think that's really exciting. That's one of the things I'm most excited about for you all as well. And the last point just here on this slide is really about climate and social change, and really connecting the things we do every day to the biggest challenges. So really thinking about like how to overcome the little points of friction so that we can put our energy towards the places that need our attention. So I think that like collective agency, voice, and action that comes from this is really exciting as well.